when the railroads came across the country, they needed gravel. And so the gravel was taken from all the rivers and tributaries, all the deltas. We had all of these ugly gravel pits around the state. And in the 1980s, people took conservation efforts to turn them into like marshland again, just because they were horrible looking in part. And the unintended consequences of that is we created firefly habitats without even knowing fireflies were here. So they started appearing, and suddenly Colorado is covered in all these little pockets of fireflies, but they're very fragile and they're very elusive. And so part of this idea of finding where they all are has to do with protecting those habitats, you know. One thing is, you know, they're disappearing on the East Coast. You used to be able to see fireflies in the middle of Manhattan, I'm told. But light pollution is what causes them to disappear because they need that flashing to find mates. So here in Colorado, we actually have an opportunity to start out as the species is growing to protect them, which is like the most hopeful story I've ever been able to tell about the environment. And it feels good to tell a hopeful story because I tell a lot of sad stories. We want to protect that habitat and not trump people all over it, though. So in order to do any kind of, you know, thing where it's like, come see the fireflies and we bring the public in, you sort of need a mechanism. So I'd had this idea of sharing the fireflies, and I thought, well, if I write a little bit of code for the computer and I point the camera at the fireflies, then that code could be translated into music that could be heard on a live webcast, for example. Here, that works perfectly because that way people can stay at home, see the fireflies, but not overrun their habitats. And in some places, you know, that's very, very fragile, very few fireflies. So currently, I've been working with the CO Biofrontiers Institute and Dr. Orit Peleg's lab. She's also working on cataloging firefly flashes, and she has many students who are helping. So it's been really a joy to get a chance to work with them. The reason I have musicians as part of this is because my initial concept was going to be that the fireflies would create the music, and they were very dense in Ohio and in New York, and that would have been possible. But out here, we have much smaller populations, so it would have been very John Cage kind of ambient where one sound would get triggered and then it would be a while. And the musicians are a way to sort of help the fireflies, and they're sort of collaborating with the fireflies as well as maybe drawing them out. Now, fireflies don't have ears, but it's sort of like kind of sympathetic magic to me where, you know, we're having this almost ceremonial thing to say, come on, fireflies, we want to see you.
One of the things that attracted to me this entire idea was the fact that I'm really interested in musique concrète. The idea of using sounds that exist in our surroundings as part of a composition or as a musical element. And I like the idea of taking these natural movements and converting them into sound and music, and also having a musician improvise with them.
When Lori asked me to do this project, I was especially intrigued about what it might be to improvise and interact with nature, which doesn't necessarily have a start and stop, but has an ongoing life cycle. And people want to get out and be in a sort of peaceful place, but nature is really, really loud. And the bugs are so intriguing to me, and it really complements the ways that I play guitar. Sometimes, like the gestures that I do that might not necessarily sound musical to conventional ears.
The collaboration with Roger really worked well, and that the sounds of the theremin can be used to mimic birds or bees or insects, and also the wind. It does have a very organic sound for an electronic instrument, which I think is not necessarily the case for a lot of other electronic instruments, since it's a very early one, and it's an intuitively played one by gesture, and it's utterly microtonal. There's something that it has that perhaps some other instruments don't have.
So my mission is to raise awareness about these fireflies, because scientists actually need help from the public in finding their locations so that we can actually, catalog them, genomically sequence them. So we have several species of fireflies in Colorado, and we found that like one or two of them are actually indigenous to Colorado and unique to Colorado. So to me, it's very, very important that we actually know what we have here, because as we are facing all these species losses and what's the fifth great extinction, we need to know what was here to even know what we've lost.
As a person and as an artist, this makes me feel good about what I do in creativity, because it shows that the creative process is really a part of our very existence. When the kids or the group is walking by me and I hear all of their shoes on the trail, that sound is part of the environment too. And I think that sometimes humans have a tendency to see themselves as separate from nature instead of as being a part of nature. And so for me, like integrating my own embodiment, my own guitar playing into the entire sort of aural field and spectral field of the experience is a way to immerse myself in the creative process itself.
We saw a couple little flashes, but the problem was that there were a lot of heat waves, and that caused the fireflies to start flashing 11 days early. And it was a very, very short breeding cycle in Colorado. So we saw a few flashes, but we were still able to go out, make music, be in nature, and do this amazing performance that people watched. So, yeah, I'm hoping to do this all over the state of Colorado and highlight different communities' musicians, highlight different communities' fireflies, while still protecting their habitats and raising awareness that we really need to make sure we're not doing harm and keeping the skies dark enough, turning our lights off at night so that we can actually still continue to enjoy the fireflies.